Alright guys, I'm going to show you today how to take a full stock AR, A2 style stock, how to get that gone and put on a telescoping, folding, whatever you wish to call it, stock, so you can have something that's a little bit more compact. Alright guys, so first rule, weapon safety, even though I already know this gun's cleared. If I don't do this, I'm sure somebody will post up and say something smart ass. Let's go ahead and make sure the gun's cleared. Inspect the chamber, no round in it. We are good to go. Now, first up, one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is they do not remove the upper from the lower before they start a project like this. I've seen a couple people do it. I've gotten calls from a couple of friends who've done this. Or what they do is they take the screw out first. Okay, now the very first thing you want to do in this, so step one, is you want to go ahead and remove the upper. So however you like to take takedown pins out, go ahead and do it. Some people don't like touching them as much as I do or risk scraping them, but go ahead and get those suckers out. I usually take the back one out first before I go for the front one, just preference. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Once you get them out, this one's going to be a little bit of a bitch, huh? Now you could do it without removing the upper completely. Some people do. I've seen videos where people don't completely remove the upper. I am not a fan of that. I think it's just a much easier practice to completely remove it. That way it's not involved in any other aspect. This takes us to step two, which is going to be to remove the spring, buffer assembly, basically all those components. Now, to do that, you got this little nipple right here that you need to depress. If you've had your AR for any amount of time, you know that this is basically, you're pretty much at this point still following your generic disassembly instructions, okay? If you've ever disassembled and cleaned your AR, which I hope to God you have. Go ahead and depress that. Everything will come right on out. Now, it's out. Now we can go ahead and take the stock off. Now, you'll notice, I want to point this out, that the springs are going to be a little bit different size. Okay? It's like there's two more rings. Let me actually bring this better into view of the camera. You'll notice that there's two more rings. Now this is from the A2 style stock. This is from the Palomino State Armory stock. Okay? Important to note. Step three. At this point, I want to go ahead and get that screw out. Now you notice that mine's a little stripped. And that's because I've changed this stock out more than once. Remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. Be mindful of a couple of things. You have a takedown pin retention spring right here on the other side of that stock that might come shooting out. And I try to keep it with the right side of the rifle facing down. That way if I do lose the takedown pin spring, it shouldn't go far. Once you get the screw backed out a little bit, you don't need to back it out all the way. You'll see the spring right about there. Okay, now we want to be mindful of that spring. So what I'll do is turn the stock just a little bit, take that spring out, set it aside. Now, go ahead and take your screw the rest of the way off. Okay. And once you get that done, this is off. The little adapter is off. Okay. Screw this puppy out. Simple as that, guys. There you go. Now, you'll notice that that nipple is coming up because the buffer tube is keeping it in place. Alright. You'll also notice too that your takedown pin will go back and forth at this point. Now we're on step number 4. Alright, so we got our pieces to the new stock. all lined up, all squared away. Now the castle nut is conveniently already on this stock because the stock was actually already on the gun and I switched out stocks for the video to do this. Okay. Now you'll notice, if you don't already, to go ahead and take the stock portion of your newest stock assembly off, you actually just lift in the opposite direction as you would be to adjust it, and it'll slide right off. Okay, it's gonna make it a little bit easier to install this sucker. So make sure that you got everything lined up. Okay, now once you have everything set to go, you're gonna go ahead and just screw this sucker right back on the lower stock. I'm sorry, the lower stock. The lower. Have a go at it. Now be mindful of your little nipple. They need to make sure that that thing doesn't get pinched because it needs to be down to a point so that when you screw this on, if you can see, actually let me go ahead and back my finger out so you can. You want to get this thing screwed in just to the point that it touches it. Back it off a little bit. Go ahead and push that nipple down so you're depressing the spring. Now go ahead and screw. There you go. You want this to be essentially at the point to where it's keeping the nipple in place. There's still going to be play so you can put your buffer assembly back in, but you want it at that point so that you can keep it retained. Otherwise it's going to fly out. Essentially it's what this tube was doing. Okay, now that we got all this in place, we need to go ahead and get this little fucker back in there. Now, make sure you get your pin adjusted in the right spot. Takedown pin. Oh. Whoa. Go ahead, just slide it right on in the hole. Get it lined up. It's actually really easy. Push it on down. Now you notice there is tension back again in the takedown pin. Then manually just screw your castle nut back into place. Now this is where I say these wrenches aren't really needed because you'll notice takedown pins all screwed away that it's in place. Fucker's not going anywhere. Okay, but it's always good to tighten it down, and I do recommend tightening it down. It's just I don't think you need to run out and buy one unless you're going from a telescopic or folding stock type situation to this, because if you've got one that's been installed from the factory, it's going to be a lot tighter. Now, you obviously want it tighter. I'm sure some idiot will tell me that, oh, well, you know, you're not safe. It's not tight. But always get it on there, make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, yeah, it's nice and tight. All right, so we're pretty much done at this point, right? What do we have left? Well, we're going to put the new spring in. So, slide that puppy on in there. There you go. Alright, what's left? Put it on. Put it on the same way it came off. Quick, dirty. Alright. There you go, folks. Now, let's go ahead and get the upper back on. So our final step. I know I kind of stopped counting. I really didn't think that at the very end, when everything gets real simple for you, that you guys would need me to count each step. So, let's go ahead and throw the upper back on. If you're still watching the video at this point, you need to know how to put your upper back on. May God have mercy on your soul. But I do appreciate you watching for this long. Front pin first, back pin last. All right, let's do a function check. All right, guys. Well, if you've gotten this far, your gun should look something like this. The stock working, functional. You should be able to easily retract your bolt. If you haven't, go ahead and restart the video and try again.